Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Ready for Rome webinar. My name is Shelley, and I am the community manager at Italia Pass. And I'm joined today by Sofia Bragaglia. She is our Italia Pass Italy Experience Specialist. And between the both of us, we have decades of experience in Italy. I've lived in Rome for 25 years now, and Sofia is originally from Italy. So we're happy to be here with you today to share some information about Italy so that hopefully when you come to Rome, you'll feel right at home from the first day. So let's go ahead and get started. First, before I start, I wanted to quickly just go over what is Italia Pass because many of you are probably here because you purchased a train ticket with Italia Rail. Italia Rail is one of our partner brands. So there's all these brands that are the Italia brands, tours, drive, hotels, and they've been working with millions of tourists since 1987 of travelers coming to Italy. And then our CEO decided to try to create a product that would bring all the travelers together and help integrate all these different services and created Italia Pass. So the way that it's evolved is that now Italia Pass is actually two different types of travel benefits passes. So you can choose a Viva Pass that's $99, a Primo Pass that's $199 that has even more benefits. And you can learn all about that on our website. And we will be talking just a little bit today as we go along about what some of those benefits are in case it's something that you might want to integrate into your trip, or you may have already purchased it as you purchased your Italia Rail ticket. The community that I'm the manager of is 100% free. It's online. If you go to community.italiapass.com, you can access it at any time. You can go on over there and ask any questions that you have. And that's just another way that we are here to serve you as travelers with Italia Rail and all our different brands. So how are we going to structure today's presentation? This is what we're planning to cover. It'll take about 30 minutes. And then at the end, we'll have a live Q&A. You can type into the chat box any kind of questions that you have, and we'll answer those live. So we're going to start by going over when you arrive at the airport. Most of you will probably arrive into Rome with a flight. And so FCO is the airport. It's known as Fiumicino or Leonardo da Vinci. So Sofia will tell you about how to get into the city from the airport and then give you some information about a lounge that we have available at Termini train station. I'll be talking about how to get around on public transport here in Rome, as well as some of the local customs with restaurants and a few tourist traps, how you can avoid those. And then Sophia will tell you about how to get some complimentary access into different of the most famous sites, some tours, how you can get $100 off of an Italia Tours experience. And then I'll wrap it up with a couple of my favorite local tips that I always tell friends and family when they're coming here to Rome. And then we'll move into the live Q&A. Like I said, it will be a chat Q&A. So at any time throughout the presentation, feel free to just, if you click on, there will be Q&A, there should be a Q&A box that you find in the chat icons on your bottom panel. And that will probably appear also, I think it's under more. If you click the three dots for more, you can find that and type a question at any time. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Sophia to get started about how to get into the city from the airport.
Thank you, Shelley. Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us today. Yeah, let's get started. Now you've landed at FCO Airport, and if you're here, you'll have a few options to get to the center of Rome. As you see on the slide, they're all indicated in the terminal, and there's quite a few ways to reach the city. So the first option is to reach Roma Termini, which is the main train station in Rome, by train. There are two types of trains that you can take. The first one is called Leonardo Express. It's a direct train that goes directly to Termini Station. It's around $18 on Italia Rail, and it's usually, I would say, the most common option to reach the city. But there is a second type of train that you can take. It doesn't have a fancy name, unfortunately. It's just a regional train, and it travels to two of the smaller stations in Rome, those being Trastevere and Ostiense. Those trains are slightly cheaper. They're around $10 on Italia Rail. And there isn't really a huge difference between the two. I would say the Leonardo Express, it's usually the most common option because it goes straight to the heart of Rome. So if you're trying to travel to other cities that might chances are you'll need to travel there. But both are considered regional trains. The Leonardo Express is slightly faster. It's nonstop, but again, it's more or less the same. Depending on where you're trying to get into the city, you might prefer one or the other. Um, we generally get a lot of questions on whether you should book your tickets in advance. And I would recommend doing so, especially now that we're heading into high season. The queues can get very long, the servers can get a little overwhelmed. So I would make sure that you secure a space at the best time, at the best departure time for you. Just make sure you calculate that based on your arrival time and that you calculate it accurately because the Leonardo Express tickets are time specific. I believe there's a 90-minute window from the departure that you choose to get on a Leonardo Express train. So yeah, just make sure to get the right time. And that I would recommend, I would say the right time would be at least 1 hour and a half to maybe 2 hours after your scheduled landing time. And definitely no trains out of Roma Termini. As I mentioned, maybe you're trying to get to Florence or Venice. Definitely no trains to other cities from Termini within 3 hours of your arrival. This is just in case of, delays, luggage issues, any other unforeseen events, you'll want to have some extra time. So that's always recommended. So yeah, that's it for trains. There are also taxis that you can take. They're right outside the terminal, and they have a fixed rate of 55 euros, so they're fairly handy. Or other options, as you see here on the slide, include taking a shuttle bus or booking a private transfer. That is a service that we offer, so we can take you straight to your accommodation in Rome, or again, if you're trying to get to Termini Station, anywhere within Rome that you need to be, we can take you. So you can book it on our Italia Tours website, or if you want to reach out to support, an Italy experience specialist like myself can help you get booked. Next up, we have, should I rent a car? So this is a question that comes up a lot. I would say there's no universal answer, but I will try to give you some pointers to help you decide. I would say a good rule of thumb is if you know you're going to be exploring some remote areas of Italy, let's say the Tuscan countryside or the Amalfi Coast. In this case, renting a car can actually be a great option. This is just because these more remote areas may not have as much public transport available, so a car will give you more freedom. However, if you're only going to be visiting the major cities like Florence, Rome, Milan, Naples, I would not recommend renting a car just because the best way to navigate between these cities is by train. There's a high-speed network that connects most of them. So it's usually the recommended option. And most of these cities have very strict car traffic rules. So it can be tricky to navigate. You would need a permit to enter certain areas. Finding parking is, again, it can be tricky. So yeah, I would not recommend booking or renting a car in that specific case. But ultimately, it's up to you, depending on your needs, of course. Regardless, if you do decide to rent a car, you can do so on our platform, Italia Drive, and you would benefit from a discount as an Italia Pass member, which you can redeem directly on the website or by reaching out to us. Another perk of being a member is the access to our Italia Pass lounge, which you see here on the slide. The lounge is located inside the Roma Termini station. That's the station I mentioned earlier. And it's just a great spot to hang out if you have some extra time, let's say before boarding a train or if you're waiting for your hotel check-in time. You can come and just relax with us. We offer free Wi-Fi, espresso, refreshments. We also offer free luggage storage in case you need to store your bags, carry-ons. You can drop them off and pick them up during opening hours, pretty much at any point. We also have some lovely hosts. So if you have any questions about Rome or traveling, especially by train, they'll be happy to help you. All we ask is that you book your complimentary visit beforehand so that we know you will be there at a specific time on a specific date, and we can welcome you properly. And now I'll hand it over to Shelley for some information on public transport within the city.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get into how you can get around Rome with public transport. Now, Rome is a very walkable city, and it's easy to get around. It's a relatively small historic center compared to a lot of other large European capitals. So that's the first thing. If you're not coming in like this time of year, it's really nice weather. If you're coming in like August, July, it's very, very hot. Or if you have mobility issues, so public transport might be an option in those cases. So the way it works is we basically have mostly buses. We have two subway lines. The subway here is known as the Metro. It's short for Metropolitana. So anytime you're looking for a subway, you're going to look for an M, a sign with an M. And then we have a couple of trams. The only one you'll probably see or run into and possibly use would be number 8, which is down by Piazza Venezia. So the tickets cost 150 and they're good for 100 minutes of unlimited rides on the system. So you don't have to worry about different zones or anything like that. You just the ticket is 150 and the time of the 100 minutes starts from the time that you board your first whatever transport you're taking. So if you go on the subway, if you're boarding a bus, the only exception is that that ticket is only good for one ride on the subway. So once you enter the subway, you can ride it as long as you need to. When I mentioned that there's two lines, it's very easy to navigate because A line and B line only cross at one point. So if you need to change from line A to line B or vice versa, the only place you can do that is Termini, which is the station, the train station that Sophia was just talking about. So that's really simple. But once you leave the subway, once you've ridden and you actually exit the station, you won't be able to get back on the subway with that same ticket, even if you still have time on your ticket. However, you can still use it for up to the 100 minutes on the buses and the trams. And one other thing I should mention is the way that the ticket check system works. So when you go on the subway, you're going to go through a turnstile. So you have to have a ticket and pass through the turnstile, and that's how your ticket gets checked or validated. On the buses, though, it's a little different because in some cities you will like board the bus, pay the driver, or the driver will check your ticket. That doesn't happen in Rome. In Rome, you're going to board the bus, but you don't have any interaction with the driver. There's these little machines on the bus where you will either tap your ticket if you have a paper ticket, or you will use tap and go, which I'm going to talk about in just one second. But what I want to mention about the buses is on the subway, there won't be no inspectors because you have to show your ticket to get into the subway. However, since no one checks when you board the bus, the way it works in Rome is almost like an honor system. Periodically, inspectors will just randomly board buses and randomly check random passengers to see if they have a ticket. So you'll just want to make sure you have your ticket handy, but don't expect that you'll be checked. You may or may not. So the tap and go system is how most people travel on public transport now. If like locals probably have a bus pass, but for people who are visiting or just need a ticket every once in a while, most people use tap and go, which is contactless payment. So you can use any of your contactless payment credit or debit cards. If you have like Apple Pay or one of those contactless systems on your smartphone, that also works. The only thing is that each payment system is only good for one ticket. So for example, in other cities, you may be able to use the same card for multiple riders. That's not the case in Rome. Every rider needs their own payment card or payment system, like a smartphone payment system. So because the reason is if the inspector checks your ticket, they're going to want to see the card payment that you used. The system can only register one rider per payment system. So that's just the only thing to keep in mind. But it's very easy. You have your card. If you board the metro, you just tap it on the turnstile. Same goes with the buses. You'll see these little electronic kiosk type things and you just tap your card. It will light up green and that means you're good to go. From that moment on, you have 100 minutes to ride the system. If you do want a paper ticket, or maybe you don't have a contactless payment method, you can purchase those. They're called biglietto. Like one is biglietto, more than one would be biglietti. You could just say ticket. I mean, there's a lot of English speakers here in Rome because of the economy works on a lot of high tourism. So don't worry if you don't have the Italian words, but it's always nice if you want to try. Um, so you can buy those at newsstands. You can buy them at the tabaccheria, which is the tobacconist. Those are little shops that you'll see because they have a little sign over the top that's just a T. Very easy to identify. And there are machines, but the machines are only in the subway stations. Generally speaking, you won't see machines at bus stops. So you're going to want to, if you do get a paper ticket, you'll want to get that at the newsstand or the tabaccheria. I would recommend that when you buy them, buy two, because then you have one for going and one for coming back. And the way that that works is that you'll just tap those as well because they have like chips inside. So you can just tap those at the machines to validate. You only have to validate once. The first method, when you first board, passing through the turnstile in the subway, or the first bus that you board, and then from then on, just hang on to your ticket in your wallet or whatever. You don't need to tap it every time, and you also don't need to tap it when you exit or get off the bus. I know that's true of some other cities, but here in Rome, it's just the first time, and that's it. Last but not least, I wanted to point out a bus route that will be helpful for you as a visitor. Bus 64 is a really long route that goes from the main train station Termini, which we've already mentioned several times. It crosses the entire historic center and goes all the way over to the Vatican. So it's a really handy route to keep in mind if you're wanting to see some of the main tourist points across the historic center. One thing I will point out as we are coming into high season now, it tends to get really crowded when the city gets very busy in high season, and that means that it can sometimes be a target for pickpockets. Now, I think sometimes people get really nervous about a lot of things they see on social media. It's like about pickpocketing. It's really hard to avoid. That's not the case. I've lived here, like I said, 25 years. I've never been pickpocketed, but the reason is because I'm very aware of my belongings. I'm aware of my surroundings. When I go out, I'm not distracted. Just keep an eye on your surroundings like you would in any large major city, and you should be absolutely fine. Just make sure, like, if you have a purse, maybe put it across body, like a crossbody bag. Make sure it's zipped. Don't leave it just like hanging behind you, kind of a thing. Otherwise, you should be completely fine. And that rule holds true for any crowded space. So bus 64 might be very crowded, but any space where lots of people are crowded and there's jostling. Termini train station, for example, when you're waiting on the platform, sometimes the platform can get really crowded. Those are the areas where you just want to keep your wits about you, make sure that you know where all your things are and don't have things like a camera hanging off of your shoulder or things like that. Just be aware of your surroundings and you'll be perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about that. Rome is a very safe city. Petty crime here is a problem as much as it is in any other large European capital. All right, next, let's talk about the fun stuff of going out to eat and how you can avoid some typical tourist traps. So, as far as restaurants go, I always mention to people that we eat lunch here starting around 1:30, and we eat dinner starting around 8:30 out at the restaurants. That's local restaurants, the times that they usually open their kitchen and serve. The reason I mention that is because that might be later than what you're used to. That doesn't mean you're not going to find restaurants that you can eat earlier. There's plenty of restaurants that are open all day long. But if you're looking for places where Romans go to eat, those are the general local eating times, the non-tourist kind of eating times. The thing about the check, why I wrote check, which by the way is il conto, if you want to ask for the check. The reason I wrote that is because they won't bring your check unless you ask for it. It's a cultural thing because it's a courtesy. It's in the culture here when you go out to eat, it's a special time with your friends and family. The wait staff doesn't want to make you feel rushed, and putting the check down before you ask for it is seen as like not courteous. Would make the people feel like they're pressured to leave. So instead, they're going to wait for you to ask. And the reason I mention that is because a lot of times, for example, in the United States, sometimes when they bring your food, they might say, and here's, I'll take this when you're ready, and they set the check down. And that's like the exact opposite, as seen as a courtesy in case you're in a hurry. It's the opposite here. So sometimes visitors that I know have said, why are they not bringing the check? It's like so slow service. It's because they're trying to be courteous and respect the fact that you're out to have a dinner with your family and friends. They don't want you to feel rushed. So you just ask and they'll bring it right away. Tipping is a question that we do get a lot. You don't need to tip. It's simple as that. Tipping is not in the culture here necessarily because the wait staff makes a full salary. They don't work for tips. It's just not a cultural thing. You're free to leave a little bit as a courtesy if you feel like you had great service, but I would never leave 20%. I mean, maybe €1 per person, that kind of a thing, just as a courtesy, but it's certainly not expected and not necessary. Same goes with taxis. People ask about tipping for taxis as well. That's just not typical here. If you're paying in cash, you might want to round up to the next euro just to make it easy on the driver so that the driver doesn't need to make change. But nowadays you can pay for taxis with cards, so that's not even really an issue. But you're not going to see things here where it's like, do you want to add a tip? And there's like an automatic on the screen, 5%, 10%. That doesn't exist here because it's not part of the culture generally. Um, while we're on the topic of tipping, sometimes people do ask about tour guides and things like that, or in hotels. Yes, that's typical. Tour guides might expect a small tip, 5, 10 euros per person or per group. It really depends, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Mainly, it's just in the restaurants that I want to make you aware that you don't need to worry about tipping there. Now, gelato. I hope you're going to try the delicious gelato that we have here. Two things to watch out for that are kind of touristy. If you see overflowing tubs of gelato like I've put in that picture, that's kind of a typical way to make it look really showy, but your authentic gelato shops, the gelato's never going to rise above the level of the tub. They whip a lot of air into it, kind of making it look showy, but it's not really super authentic if it looks like that. Or if you see like overly bright colors, they're probably using artificial colors, and that's not something that a traditional shop would use. Restaurants, watch out for the restaurants that have pictures on their menu because obviously Romans don't need to see pictures of what they're eating. So it's probably not the most authentic place. Or if what I call promoters, if you see a person outside who's trying to usher you in, come in, eat here, that's not a local restaurant either because places that Romans eat don't have those people outside because they don't need to encourage people to come eat there because the locals know where they like to go to eat. So, are you going to have a terrible meal if you run into these places? No, you won't have a terrible meal, but it's not going to be particularly authentic Roman. I mean, it's hit or miss, right? So, if you really want to go to a typical local place, these are tip-offs that's more geared towards visitors or tourists. So just in case you want to avoid those places, this is what to look out for. I have a list of recommendations over at the community. If you go to the community and you click on the left for the Rome orientation webinar, there's a list of resources, and in that I've included a couple of my favorite local restaurants. All right, next I will have turn it over to Sophia to tell you, speaking of food, about how you can get a really authentic meal with some fellow Italy travelers while you're visiting Rome.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, next up we have one of our latest member benefits from ItaliaPass, which is Italia Dine. This has turned out to be one of our, traveler favorites in terms of benefits. The idea behind this experience is to get fellow travelers around the dinner table for a Roman family-style feast. It's an event that gets hosted around 3 times per week, so it's not quite every day, but we keep adding more and more seatings each week. As I mentioned, it's proven to be very popular. Partially thanks to our lovely host. They are a passionate local who, of course, will explain the history of food in Rome and the city in general. Of course, there's a huge culinary tradition in the city and across the whole country. So if you have any questions, if you're a foodie, if you're just curious about that tradition, they'll be more than happy to answer. And yeah, as I mentioned, the reviews have been great so far. And it is an experience that's completely free for our Primo holders. But the experience can also just be booked even if you don't have a pass. It's normally $49 per person without any TelePass. If you have a Viva Pass, you will get a $25 discount. So if you're in Rome for, let's say, a few days and you don't know which places to check out, definitely make sure to sign up for this one. I haven't been yet, but I heard the food is great, so highly recommended. And yeah, as per always, the experience can be booked either through the links provided in your membership email, or if you can't find them, or if you're having trouble, just feel free to reach out to us via email, and we'll be happy to help you and place the reservation for you. Now, for the sites, of course, there's a lot to see in Rome, so let's get into it. For our Italia Pass members, one of the highlights is Primo members get one free tour of the Colosseum, featuring exclusive access to the arena floor through the iconic Gladiators Gate. The tour also includes the Roman Forum and the nearby archaeological area, let's say. It's a fully guided tour, highly recommended. It's another fan favorite, so to speak. And again, it is free for our Prima members. Viva members can get a discount, and we actually have several Colosseum tours that you could choose from. If you're interested, we have some combo tours, so to speak. So definitely make sure to check it out. And of course, we have other tours all across Rome. We have guided tours of the Vatican, walking tours of the city itself. Usually, the walking tours include, the highlights of the city, the heart of the city, areas like Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, of course. So, yeah, if you have at least 2 days to spend in Rome, I would recommend taking a look at one of our products called the Rome Tour Pass. You can find that on Italia Tours. It's a bundle, let's say, that includes everything that I've just mentioned. So if you have at least 2 days to spend in Rome and you're interested in all of these experiences, it's usually the best. It's usually the best way of getting to see all of that in one package. Regardless, if you choose one of our tours, whether it's the Rome Tour Pass or another one, know that our members get a discount, as I mentioned. It's a discount on your first tour booking. Um, Important specification, you'll see some transfers on the website. Those transfers are the only thing that's not eligible, but all of our tours are. And it's a discount of $50 for our Viva members and $100 for our Primo members. So yeah, as I mentioned, you can book that on italiatours.com. As always, if you have any questions or if you can't find exactly what you're looking for, you can email us at any time. Um, and of course, we'll help you we'll answer any questions you might have. And if you need help with the booking, we're more than happy to place it directly. The only thing I would say is I highly recommend booking these tours as soon as you're aware of your dates, especially when it comes to the Vatican and the Colosseum. The space is fairly limited for tours and the tickets, so last minute reservations can get a bit tricky, especially for the Colosseum. They close 3 days, the reservations close 3 days before the date of the tour. So definitely, if you already know exactly when you want to visit, make sure to get your bookings in as soon as you can. Um, One last thing, we do get frequent questions regarding the dress code. I would say a general rule for visiting these places is if you know you're going to be visiting a church, especially the Vatican, of course, very important one. But it also goes for any of the basilicas, duomos, really most churches in Italy. You will need to wear clothes that cover your shoulders and knees. Um, Otherwise, you cannot. You're also not allowed to bring large backpacks or strollers into the Vatican and the Colosseum, but that's pretty much the only restriction. So, again, as I mentioned, any church, make sure that your shoulders and knees are covered. And for any other attraction, I would just say wear whatever's most comfortable. Um, it's usually tours where you will, they last a couple of hours, sometimes maybe more. So you will be going around a lot. Now it's starting to get warm, so Just make sure you're comfortable. That's the most important part. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I'll hand it back to Shelly for some local tips.
Okay, I was trying to get my audio back on. Here I am. So, a couple of my local tips. These are things I always tell people when they come to visit. These are my favorites. So, the first one is you may not know about this, but here in Rome, we have these water fountains all over the city. They're called Nazzoni. Nazzone means big nose. And the reason they're called that is because if you look at the picture, you see that spigot. It's kind of a joke about how that's shaped like their big noses, and the water comes out as you see in the photo continuously. So there's no nozzle or anything to turn it on. It runs all the time. It comes from a deep underground spring. It comes out ice cold, and it's a really convenient way to refill your water bottle without having to waste plastic or spend money to buy water bottles. And if you stop into our lounge, we'll have a gift for you of a reusable water bottle. So you'll be all set. Couple of things here too. Super local tip. If you don't have a water bottle, you want to take a drink out of the water fountain, you can without even having to cup your hands underneath the flow of water there. What you do is, and what locals will do is, they'll take their thumb and they plug the spigot, and the backflow of pressure backs up. And what you can't see is on that little spigot there, there's a tiny hole in the top. And so the backflow of the water will push it out of this little tiny hole in the top, and it turns into like a drinking fountain. The only thing that I would warn you about is, especially if you're downtown and there's a lot of people walking by, make sure you don't shoot anyone with water because it will come out in a big arc. So be ready to drink the water if you're going to do that. But you may see people doing that. It's perfectly normal. And also in that list I was telling you about that's over at the Community of the Resources, I put a link to an app, a smartphone app. I don't think it's available when you're back home, but here in Rome, once you get here, you can download it. It's the local water utility, and they've made this app where there's a map of every single water fountain in the city, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And so that's kind of fun because that way, if you need to refill your bottle, you can just look on your phone and see where the nearest fountain is. And last but not least, have an aperitivo. I don't know if you've ever seen this iconic drink that is in the photo, that orange cocktail looking drink. It's called an Aperol Spritz. That's probably the most classic version of the aperitivo. It's a very low alcohol content kind of a liqueur, like a bitter tasting kind of liqueur, and they add Prosecco and some tonic water and ice. Aperitivo is a before dinner tradition here. It's a way to have a little drink and some snacks before dinner. It generally takes place around 6, 6:30. If you don't drink alcohol, that's totally fine. It doesn't have to have alcohol. You could get a Coca-Cola, you could get a Sprite. There's a couple of local Roman drinks like Crodino, and it has no alcohol. And it's kind of a bitter, like a red bitter kind of a soda. Anyway, it's a fun option. This photo that I took is at Meccanismo in Trastevere. I like it because you can see they bring this really abundant board of snacks. I think it's like 13 euros a person. It's not like tapas where you get to choose what you eat. It's kind of chef's choice. They bring it out. Um, Other places you could get an aperitivo, even just at like a regular coffee bar. So like around 6, 6:30, go into any coffee bar, and at the register, just say you want an aperitivo, and you can get like a Prosecco or Aperol. They'll have the different drinks, and they'll probably give you some snacks to go with it. So that's kind of a fun local tradition. So try that out if you want before dinner. And that wraps up the informational part of our webinar. Now here I wrote that you would receive an email, but we had a little bit of an issue this time with the link. So I don't necessarily have, actually, if you got this link from me today when I sent out the email with the Zoom link, then I do have your email address. So what I'll do is I'm going to send out, if you receive the Zoom link in the email, then I do have your email actually. So I will send out an email probably tomorrow, and it will have a link to the resources I talked about. It'll have a recap of the Q&A that we're about to go into right now. And it will also have a link to this recording. But you can also access this recording on our YouTube channel. I'm going to upload it right after we finish. So that's open, it's public. So you can go there if you want to watch it, rewatch it if you joined late or if we went over some things too fast, feel free to go to our Italia Pass YouTube channel. You'll find it there. All right, now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I see that you guys have already put lots. It says there's 16 already in the Q&A. So I'm going to open the Q&A, and what Sophia and I will do now is we have 15 minutes to kind of just go through any questions that you want to ask. And if we don't get to your question live, don't worry, because Zoom saves all the questions for me and I will answer it offline and post it in the community. And you'll have the link to that in the email that I sent. All right, so I will let you take the first one, Sophia, because it looks like Paula's asking about train times.
Yes. So,
Okay.
what I mentioned about the train time, the 3 hour was for trains out of Roma Termini. So, if you're trying to go from FCO, the airport, to any other city, that isn't Rome, of course, do not book any trains out of Termini within 3 hours of your arrival. As I mentioned, it usually takes less time, but you'll want to have some extra wiggle room in case of delays or anything like that. So again, let's say 2 hours to get a train out of FCO itself, so the Leonardo Express, for example, and at least 3 hours for any train out of Termini.
I can take the next one. Barry's asking the 55 € fare for taxis, does it increase for four people? No, it's a flat rate. I think it's for up to five. I'll double check on that, but certainly for four, you're covered. And I believe it covers at least two pieces of luggage, but I don't know how strict they are on that. If they have room in the trunk, they're probably not going to charge you a supplement for additional luggage. But yeah, I think it's up to five people on that fare.
I can take the next one. Can you update us on planned rail strikes? So I'm not sure that there are any at this time that are planned
I'm not
for.
aware of any right now. I'll double check, but we do always post those in the community, so I
Yes.
don't have
And
any.
there's usually, if you have something booked with us, there's usually a warning that gets sent out as well. So,
All right, I'll let you take this one about the hours of the lounge. Uh-oh, are you locked or am I locked? Your screen locked up. I don't know if it's my connection or, oh, you're back. Was my connection slow or was it you?
I'm not sure.
Okay, because sometimes mine locks, but yours locked for a moment. So do you want to go over the hours of the lounge?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
perfect.
mine. I just got a little
Oh, okay,
notification.
perfect. All right,
Sorry
you'll have
about
to
that.
repeat it. You'll have to repeat it.
Yeah, no, it's I was checking Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sundays would be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
I'll let you take the next one too, because it's about train travel and you're the expert on that.
So I'm traveling from Termini to Lamezia and will need disability assistance getting on and off the train, and getting the luggage too. I contacted Sala Blue and made arrangements. Can you remind me which entrance my driver needs to drop me off to be close to Sala Blue? At Termini, that's actually, I'm not 100% sure. I would need to double
I mean,
check.
I know inside the station where it is, it's on that long walk when you go down to the Est, the one Est, the trains that go to Assisi, it's like halfway down. So I think probably off the top of my head, I don't know if the closest would be the one on the not Piazza Cinquecento, the other side.
Yeah,
The one that starts with an M.
I'm blinking too. But I think
Yeah,
Sala Blue may also offer
like
um
curbside, something curbside pickup or something.
I
Yeah.
think so. I'm not 100% certain, but I would recommend checking directly with them because of course they're usually very well equipped. So I think they might be able
Yeah,
to
because
offer
they
some.
have like the little golf carts, so they could probably maybe meet you right at your where your driver drops you off, possibly. Let me look into that, Paula, when I or Paula, I'm pronouncing your name like and it's an Italian name, Paula. I'll look into that and I will give you any information I find when I because what I do after this Q&A is I write out all the questions that everyone asks and I type out the answers so that you have a record of what we talked about. So I will do some research on that as well to see if I can find out because it's a good question. It's something that would be helpful for us to know for future passengers as well.
Definitely. I can take the next one too.
Okay.
We booked our trips to Florence, Venice, and Milan. Would an Italia Pass cover those trips? Or would we still pay for each trip? So, yeah, you would still um, pay for the trips. The Italia Pass is more of a travel package, I would say, than a rail pass. It is something that comes up fairly often. So, just to clarify, it's mostly travel benefits that you get that are specific to Italy, of course. But the rail part is separate, let's say. Masala Blue, is it a long walk from there to the platforms? As we were mentioning before, it depends on the platform, but usually they have accommodations. I believe they have wheelchairs and mobility aid of different kinds that they can offer, especially once you're within the station.
You're
The
getting a
next one
lot of
is
train questions. I'll let you take this one too.
for sure. I've read that you need to buy the train ticket, but then must get it validated. Can you explain? So actually, if you book through Italia Rail, if you book online, you will not need to validate the ticket. Usually, tickets need to be validated. Sorry, if they're bought at the local machines. So if you get paper tickets, there's little machines that will stamp the ticket for you, and it's usually just for regional trains. But if you book on italiarail.com, you will get a PDF file with the QR code that's already validated. So I would recommend doing that.
I don't know about the Sala Blue if they go. It says, does Sala Blue bring you down to the platform earlier than regular boarding? I don't know.
I think it's slightly before, but there's usually quite a bit of time, especially at Termini, since most trains depart from there. There's usually enough time to board.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that if you've organized through Sala Blue, that they handle all that just to make, they would probably want to make sure that you're there, obviously, with enough advance time to get onto the train.
Definitely. Uh, to attend Mass at the Basilica, where would you suggest the driver drop us off to minimize the walking? There is a spot that's usually the drop-off spot. I know for tours at least. We would need to double check that it's a specific address. But it's usually the point to reach the Vatican. I do believe there's only so close. They can only get so close with
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
So we can double
The
check
whole
the
the
address.
whole piazza obviously is closed off to traffic. So, but any driver who's a professional driver is going to know where the closest access points are. You won't need to necessarily worry about that. They'll know to drop you as close as possible.
Next up, we have, since we've already booked all our rail and tours, does the Italia Pass help us? I would say so, especially if you will be traveling to Rome, which if you're here, I presume you will. There's quite a few free benefits that you can get. There's the Italia Dine, especially for Primo. There's the credit on the tours. If you book additional tours, that can count as your first booking. Alternatively, I'm sure we can work something out even for previous bookings as long as they're through Italia tours. There's a free Pantheon access. I think I forgot to mention that earlier. But there's a lot of travel benefits that you would get regardless, on top of anything that you've already booked. So I would recommend that.
So this next question is about if you can request when you're requesting a taxi on IT Taxi or Free Now, if you can let them know in advance that you have a wheelchair that needs to be transported. I don't know the answer to that, so I'll look that one up and I will answer that offline and then post it in the community. And then about bringing a wheelchair into the Coliseum, I don't know that one either. How do you get questions about that? Yeah.
Yes. Just in case, I'm sorry if my connection is still a bit
No,
jumpy.
you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Perfect. I believe yes. So there are definitely when we book tickets for the Colosseum and the tours that we have, our operations team does ask for just to reach out to us explaining that you have a wheelchair because I do believe there's either a separate entrance or just some additional things that they do for mobility and accessibility that they need to organize for, but it's usually doable. That's totally fine.
Okay, this next one is asking, does the rule about covering your shoulders and knees for both, is it for both shoulders and knees, and is it for both men and women? Yes and yes. In-app, in-taxi app for taxis comment. If you mean just like comment, do we think it's a good one? In taxi, I don't know. I know that IT taxi is really popular, but in my resources list, I list several of the apps. I would imagine they're all more or less the same because they probably all go through the same booking system with the taxi companies. The important thing is that you take an official taxi and don't just go with some random driver who's trying to like at the airport that can tend to happen where they're like, "Do you need a taxi?" but it's not a real taxi. Make sure you're at the airport, make sure you go wait in the actual queue because they will give you a little receipt. They'll order your taxi, they'll give you a piece of paper that has the license number on it and everything. They do that to protect you so that people don't rip you off. In the city, go through one of these apps or wait at an official taxi stand. There are several taxi stands throughout the city. You'll just see it has a sign that says taxi. The taxis line up. You just get in line and you get in the first taxi. This one was what I talked about too. So Paola's asking if you can just get wine at the aperitivo. Yes, of course. You can just get a glass of white or red wine. Most bars will just have like a house wine. They're not necessarily going to have a wine menu, but if you're at a place like Mecanismo, which is like the photo or like a restaurant, they might have a little wine list you can choose from.
I can take this one. How much is the Italia Pass membership? So Viva is $99 dollars USD, and Primo is 199. Both can be booked on italiapass.com.
Okay, so we've got about 3 more minutes, so we'll go through as many questions as we can get to, and then if we don't get, like I said before, if we don't get to your question live, we'll answer it offline, so don't worry. How hard is it to find vegan options in Italy? I have in the reference list or the resource list I'll send you, I have a list of vegan restaurants and vegetarian restaurants. I don't think I guess I'll put it this way. In the bigger cities, it's going to be easier. In rural areas, it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be more difficult because they just might not cater to more specialized diets, but you can always say to wherever you go that you're vegan and see what kind of options that they have. But there are several restaurants in Rome and in the larger cities, you shouldn't have trouble with that.
Mike is asking, are there more details available for the hop on, hop off tours? So as of right now, actually, we're awaiting details ourselves because it's such a brand new benefit. I think it was launched yesterday. What I know is that the availability will start, or the bookings will start from May 1st onwards. So if you're interested, I would recommend sending a quick email to our support at support@italiapass.com. And as soon as we have more details, we'll just send them over to you.
So this next one says, I will come from Canada next week. Do I need to get a local Visa card to buy local food? I think your home bank card should work just fine. If you have questions about that, just ask your bank because one of the things that will happen is it will automatically to a couple different things. So sometimes when you're using a foreign bank card here in Italy at the machine, at the POS, when you're checking out, it might ask you what currency that you want to use. I don't know what's the most favorable exchange rate, so you might want to check as to whether you should have your card charged in euros or in dollars or in Canadian dollars in your case. Um, your bank may charge a service fee for foreign transactions, and your bank may also upcharge on the currency conversion. So all of these types of questions, you'll want to refer back to your bank and your credit card agreement or your debit card agreement, and they'll be able to help you to understand how your card is going to work here. While we're on the topic, I should mention that I always recommend people pull cash out of a bank ATM here in Italy rather than bringing over their local currency and trying to convert it at some sort of currency conversion point. And also make sure it's an Italian bank and not a freestanding Euronet ATM because those are ripoffs. They charge really high fees. So just there's plenty of banks all over throughout the city and they have ATMs. So I would take cash out of those with your local bank card. This will be the last question.
Let's see, is there local knowledge to be shared about public restrooms in Rome and Florence? I'm not 100% sure. It's usually there. I remember in Venice, there's a map of where you can find accessible routes and public restrooms. Do you know if there's anything similar for Rome and Florence?
So yeah, I looked this up once for another person who asked in the webinar, and so I will go back and get that link there. I have a link to the city of Rome has official like tourist kiosk points where they have clean restrooms that are available. The one thing I would say about public restrooms in Rome is that there are very few of them, and the ones that you will find are usually payment based. So you'll need to insert like a 50 cents euro coin. I don't think I've seen any that are €1. Generally, it's 50 cents. So if you don't find one of these public restrooms, which are kind of hard to find, then the best option is to go into a coffee bar and buy like a bottle of water or a pack of gum or something like that, and then ask them to use their restroom. That's what most people do. And I would also suggest that you carry like a little pack of Kleenex in your bag because a lot of times there won't be toilet paper and that's just kind of an insider tip. It's just a handy thing to have or like hand wipes or something like that just as you're going along too because you're going to be riding the subway. You might want to have hand sanitizer. These types of things are just nice to keep in your bag. But yeah, I will put in my resource list the different points where you can find the public restrooms in Rome. I don't know about Florence, but I can look that up. So everyone had lots of questions today, which is fantastic. And don't worry, I will get to them all. There's a few extras here, not very many. There's 4 left, and I will answer those offline. And so expect an email from me by end of day tomorrow with these things that we've talked about. And just thanks for being here. We really appreciate you joining us today. I hope you have an amazing trip to Rome. And just know that we're always here for you to answer your questions. Come visit us at the community or get in touch with the Italy travel experience specialists like Sophia via email or by phone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a buon viaggio.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.